this quilt woven and it looks three-dimensional. I saw the picture of this block on Pinterest and they used red instead of the teal color that I used. So I decided I wanted to make one for myself. There's really not a way I can demo how to make this, but I'm going to go through the instructions and show you what I did and give you some tips for piecing, because literally it's just made up of half square triangles, and there are 6 different color combinations of the half square triangles, and these finish at 3 inches. In this version, the quilt finishes at 72 inches by 96 inches. There are 12 blocks in the quilt. The blocks finish at 24 inches, and the setting is 3 across and 4 down. Each block has 64 half square triangles. And if you're counting, that's 768 half square triangles in this quilt. I use the AccuQuilt cutting system to cut my fabric for the half square triangles. And if you have die number 55703, it'll get you this 3-inch finished block. If you don't use an AccuQuilt, I suggest you use some sort of paper foundations for making your triangles, such as triangles on a roll, thangles, star designs. There's all kinds of different paper methods. And the reason I like using the paper is you can cut bigger chunks of fabric, because you're going to be making a lot of half square triangles, and if you can work with bigger chunks of fabric, it's going to go faster for you. So you can download these instructions. There's a link to my blog in the description of this video, and you can download and print these instructions. Now the fabric I used 4 different fabrics from Grunge Basics collection. You'll need about 2.5 yards of each fabric, and then you'll need about 3/4 yards for your binding. I haven't quilted my quilt yet, but I'm going to put the binding as this teal color. So that's what I'll be doing. And on the instruction sheet, I listed the grunge fabrics. On page 2, I have broken the block out into 4 sections, because the 4 sections are, for some people, may be more easily managed. So here is the upper left section, upper right, lower left, and lower right. And there are 6 different combinations, color combinations for the half square triangles. And so in here, I've showed you that the accent and black half square triangle, you make 2 for this section. And the same thing with all the others. So the reason I did this is you could actually go and go to your upper left section and piece 12 of these. And then that's more doable and less confusing than doing the whole block at once. I did the whole block at once and it was fine, but you just really have to pay attention to what you're doing. So here's the upper left, upper right, lower left, lower right, if this is the way you like to see things. On the next page, I summarized the fabrics and the number of half square triangles. So over here are your 6 different color combinations, and then I'm spelling out what each combination is. Here in the upper left, you'll need 2 of these, 1 of this, 3 of this, and so forth all the way down. Then I did the same thing with the upper right, the lower left, and the lower right. And so there are 16 half square triangles in each of these sections. And then on this side of the chart, this is how many you have per block. So if you add these numbers up, you get 12 for this half square triangle. And this is per block. And the block is shown again here. This is 8 by 8 half square triangles. And then per quilt, so if you look at here, this one, the accent and black half square triangle, you'll need to make 144 of those for your quilt. Next up on page 4, I have sort of exploded the block into 8 rows. And I did this to show you how I did the pressing. And also as another check to make sure your triangles are in the right position and the right colors. So for instance, in row 1, you're going to press toward the left. And in all of the odd numbers, you're going to press toward the left. So row 1, 3, 5, 7, press toward the left. In the even number rows, you're going to press toward the right. And what that does, for me, I love to nest my seams when I'm sewing these together. And if you do that, these really just fall into place really nicely. You're still going to have some bulk where you have a lot of these fabrics meeting, but to me, that's just a necessary evil, you know, and you press them well and they're not a big problem. Now on the last page, page 5, I've listed some tips that I ran across as I was making these. The first one is check, double check, and recheck all the fabrics and the placement and the orientation of the half square triangles before you sew anything together. It's so easy to get these confused. Cut and piece the half square triangles for 1 or 2 blocks first. Lay out the blocks and make a test block. Before you cut the entire quilt, you might want to make a test block. Now if you're happy with the test block, then go ahead and cut all the remaining half square triangles. Cut them and piece them. I had stacks and stacks of the 6 different half square triangles. And because once you do that, you don't have to stop and make some more half square triangles if you're in the middle of something. So in pressing, I press the seams on the half square triangles open on the diagonal. I just wanted to have a little bit less bulk if I could in those areas. So I pressed those open. Now once your block is complete, I divided them into 2 stacks. On one stack, the seams are pressed up, and in the other stack, the seams are pressed down. And here's what I mean by that. And these are the arrows showing you the up and down. When you have your 8 rows, I pressed all of these seams going up and then all of these seams going down, because that way you can nest those seams between the 2 blocks in the rows. So this one is up, down, up for that one, and then the opposite for the next row. So this tells you which way to press the rows, press between the rows in each block. These are the 12 blocks. Now when you sew your rows together, you press all these in one direction. So the top row will be pressed to the left, the next one to the right, the third one to the left, and the fourth one to the right. This all gives you really nice ways to nest those seams, and the quilt just goes together really nicely. And that's really all the information I have for you. It's very easy block to do, and it just takes time, and you really just have to concentrate on where the placement of your half square triangles are, and check and check and check again before you do anything. So another thing that I did, once I did my test block, I decided I would piece 2 blocks at once. So I would lay out 2 blocks, and I'd go and press and piece each row and then press the rows together, each time checking as I went along. So after I finished the first 6 blocks, I got a little more confidence in myself, and I thought I would piece 6 blocks all at once. Well, if you do that and you make a mistake, and somewhere right in the middle of one of these blocks, I had this half square triangle turned around. So that means since I was doing 6 blocks at a time, I had to rip out 6 blocks all in that one spot. So if you've only pieced 2 at a time, then you only have to rip out 2 at a time. So that's a lesson learned from me. Thanks for watching.